Youth justice, as we know, is out of control in Victoria. We know we've seen an increase of over 30% when it comes to young people committing offences across the whole state. Knife crime is out of control. Violent offences are out of control at record levels that we've never seen. And the Allan Labor government want to bring in a bill that effectively soften our laws and give these kids more rights. What we want to see is a system where these young people are held to account for the offences they have. And most importantly, people in the community are kept safe. We're sick of seeing on the news every night a new offence, a carjacking, a home invasion, or tragically, 3 lives lost due to people on bail that should not have been out in our network and having the ability to take lives in the community. We need to explain to those families why the Allan Labor government now are trying their hardest to soften the laws to give these kids more chances to get back on the street without any education options, without chances to give them the tools to get the best out of their life. We're just going to return them and say everything's okay. The other aspect of this bill, which is very concerning for me, is the changes to the parole board, which is going to ensure that victims are no longer heard when it comes to delivering on what they need for parole in the future and making decisions. The Allan Labor government have to make a decision and put their priorities right. Are they standing with victims in the state, or are they standing with the offenders who want to get back out into our community? We want to make sure that we have a safe community, and the best way to do that is we listen to the victims. And it's not just those victims, obviously, who have lost someone who's a loved one. It's the victims who are at home and had someone come through their house with a knife. I can't even fathom what it would be like for that. It's the victims who I've spoken to where a father was in Perth and had a phone call from his daughter who said, "We've got offenders in the house at the moment," and they were home alone and the parents were stuck in Perth. We need to be listening to those victims to ensure that they're heard, so the parole board understand exactly the decisions they're making, and the priority from the parole board and anyone when they're making a decision around bail must be community safety first.
Now, in the upper house, from the opposition's perspective.
Yep. So we'll be moving approximately 300 amendments through the upper house, and we'll be working on some more, particularly around bail that we've spoken about with Michael O'Brien. It's really important that we're putting forward the views of the community and ensuring that this bill, if it's going to pass, it has to have conditions in there around protecting and making sure the community is safe. We have genuine concerns around the police powers. They're trying to add in an extra lot of police powers in relation to 10 and 11-year-olds that's different to those under 10 and different to those above 12. And if you think it sounds confusing, it's because it is confusing. And if you're going to ask Victoria Police to go out there and implement these laws, then you've got to ensure there's consistency. So the first thing on that is we're trying to make sure it's consistent. The second part is around the raising of the age. We've been listening to Victoria Police, the Police Association, the community, and seeing some of the crimes that are out there. Michael O'Brien's just reinforced there is already provisions in place for the 12 to 14-year-olds through the court system. And we've been very open and honest on that. If you're going to make changes, it has to be putting in place crime prevention, giving these kids the opportunities in courses, in classes, through education. These are the policies that we would be backing to ensure that we can see change, not just saying you're no longer accountable. There's amazing programs out there, most of them philanthropic funded because this government has cut their funding when it comes to dealing with crime prevention, that we should be working with to give kids the best chance in the future. So young offenders, at the minor end of the scale when it comes to crime, don't end up in a system where they continuously come back over and over again and eventually end up in our adult prison system.
Mate, is it your view that the spike in youth crime is partly of the government's own making? I mean, would we be here today if the government had adopted what you guys have been calling for some time, or indeed brought in these tweaks today last year when they made changes?
The first point on that, if the Allan Labor government didn't weaken the bail laws, we wouldn't be here today when we talk about 2 people that have died in our community. And the crime wouldn't increase if the Allan Labor government had have started the actions in 2017 when a report was put on their bench to make recommendations about how we can deal with crime and bring the community along, using philanthropic organisations, using programs to give kids the best chance. They've ignored that for nearly 10 years, and the outcome is record levels of crime, violent crime at levels that we haven't seen before. People talking about going into a home with a knife like it's almost nothing now because it's almost become normal. That's the scary part of Victoria. You all know I'm from Berwick. We've recently seen crimes in Berwick that we have not heard of in the past. We're the second highest level for aggravated burglaries across the state. From Mildura to Mallacoota, all across metropolitan Melbourne, we are seeing an increase in violence, including aggravated burglaries. I was out with a police officer the other day, a good friend of mine who I've known for a long time. We used to get called to houses because you came home and your TV was missing. Now these offenders are coming in with no fear in the world and stealing your TV while you're home, and they don't care your kids are there. That's been created by this government by weakening laws and allowing kids to get away with it, that they now feel brazened enough that they can walk into your home at any time with a knife. We have to stop that, and our messaging has to be very strict on how we do.